I'll call the meeting to order. Vandenberg,
Say
When do you start?
Say here.
Here.
Borgula,
Here.
Sorensen here, Iverson,
Here.
Page,
Here.
Schatzinger.
Here.
Does anybody know where Jonathan is? Before I ask for a motion to approve the agenda as presented, I would ask that we remove audit review, and that will be October 4th. That is when we can get a human being here and not do it on the phone, which I don't like. And then they'll have the hard copies. And then the chief would like to add hiring policies and procedures, right?
For
Yes,
tonight, yes.
yes,
Under new business?
yes. So I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as revised.
Can you state what their revisions are again? Should
You're
that be part of
removing
it?
the audit review. And you're adding, instead of that, review of hiring policy, which will be an action item, I believe. Okay? Somebody like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda
Thank you, Gary. Is there a
As,
second?
as amended.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mike. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
I,
Approved unanimously, thank you all. And we don't have anyone here for public comment. So we will move on to approve the secretary reports.
Okay, well, all I have to report is I did talk to the former secretary treasurer. We've not been doing tax intercepts. There's a problem with the city not wanting to do it. It costs a lot of money for us to set up what we would get. It is a problem with debt collecting because we only get a little bit of it back if they collect any. I did have a conversation by email with their chief of police, who informed me that if we got an accident report, we would get all that information we needed. We would get the insurance information, we can get driver's license ID, and also that the fire station can ask to have the plate run and capture the information at that time too. So maybe that's something, I think it's something I'm gonna work with the chief on and see if we can get something in place. So when we have an MVA, we can try to get some of that money back from insurance. Whatever they're gonna pay, whatever we need to do, we go work through it that way. We went to the scene, we did this is where our charges, pay it. So who knows? But considering we just have stuff sitting there, and I know some of these are house fires or barn fires or something like that, or garage fires, but with NVAs, I think that we can get some of this money back to us. So I think I'll get with the chief and we'll look at some of the stuff in the past to see if there's something that maybe we pull a report on and see if we can get something going, although it might be too late, who knows?
Julie, did you have a question?
no, I just want to make sure, so this is, we're just reviewing the minutes, correct? Or are,
It's treasurer's
Yeah,
report. We
I thought we were reviewing the
Well, we
minutes.
have to do the minutes and the treasurer's report. So are you finished with your?
Yes, I am.
So let's look at the minutes.
Sorry.
That's okay. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I move to approve the minutes from both August 2nd as well as July 5th as presented.
Thank you, Jolene. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Gary. All those, is there any discussion regarding the minutes?
I believe that we did approve the July minutes.
At our August meeting?
Stated in our minutes anyways.
Yeah, I think I would be in favor of allowing Jolene's motion to stand because this is what was sent out publicly. the July minutes again, and even though they're approved, we can bundle it.
Also, my name is spelled wrong.
Yeah, needs an R
Where?
in the,
Oh, I see it, sorry.
With those corrections and with that addition, I'll second it.
I think Gary seconded it, but you need to, he'll make those corrections.
I'll do that and I'll send them back.
Okay.
Do you want me to bring them forward next month?
No.
All right, I'll just correct them and,
Thank you, Gary. I do that too, I make sure my name is spelled right. All those in favor of the minutes as, with the clerical errors changed, please signify by saying aye.
aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, so we have your motor vehicle
Yes.
report, and then we'll move on to accounts payable and the treasurer's report.
On page 1, you're gonna see the reimbursement for a physical to one of our members. They accidentally billed him instead of billing the fire district, so he provided the paperwork, and then he paid it, and because it was a nightmare to try to get it changed to the fire district, so that's what that reimbursement was for. Other than that, there was some miscellaneous, there weren't a lot of bills this round, but there was some miscellaneous maintenance things that went on. And then on page 2 were all the light bar changes that had been coming for months and months and months. So those were all complete, and that was quite a hefty bill there. And again, that was because of the electrical malfunctions. So, there's again.
Garage door,
But,
garage doors. We put new garage doors in, or,
no, that's for the garage.
oh, the garage there?
Yeah, the-
Gotcha.
Garage payment for the doors and the garage is in here also on page 1. And then, the KZ Enterprises, which is Ripon Area Builders now, they changed their name. So that's what that was for, and that was out of the donation money. So the only thing left to do in the garage is the electric end of it. That should be done within the next couple weeks. That's all I have. I have a lot more, but that's all I have on there.
Who does the, who's doing the electrical?
Healy.
Is there a motion to approve the accounts payable and treasurer's report?
I'll make a motion to approve the accounts payable as is printed.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Doug. All those, is there any other discussion or questions about accounts payable for the treasurer's report? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, status report on outstanding collectibles.
Yeah, I have a couple things on that. I know, Doug, you started talking, this is kind of what you were talking about, right? The outstanding collectibles. The deputy just passed out a letter that is sent out that I was searching for some things, and this was one of them, that just goes out to the people who have outstanding bills. This is the letter we send out.
Are we going to discuss why we have outstanding bills for this year?
Oh,
Are we going to discuss that nothing's been billed?
yes. So, well, what happened was, Ellen and I had a conversation about the invoices going out. And when we had that conversation and we were just touching base on a couple things, we were on the phone with Barb, and Barb said, well, I've only billed out $700 in invoices. And I said, that's impossible. Like, we probably bill out a few $1,000s. I mean, I don't have the figures in front of me, but thousands of dollars every month. in fire call invoices. And so I said, that's impossible. So I pulled up some emails of some things that I've sent to Barb with fire call invoices on there. And Ellen was sitting right there, and I said, here's the date I sent it to her. And she goes, I never got it. So I resent it to her while she was sitting right there. She never got it. So for some reason, she wasn't getting our stuff. Now, Barb did figure it out. And what happened was on her spam, it was going into her spam email, okay? She doesn't check her spam email. She was going in her spam for months and months, okay? She apologized. She's like, I thought it was, on the phone conversation, she said, I thought it was strange, like, we haven't gotten any invoices, you know? But she never communicated that she wasn't getting those. So she just thought maybe it wasn't billable calls. And so when she found them in the spam, when I went to her spam has a thing on there, only 7 days, and it clears itself out or something. So, they were all clearing them out. So what I did was I sent them while we were on the phone. I sent every month from January to now for all the bills, and that's how now she's billing those out. So we caught it. I'm dumbfounded, and like at first I was like, how is this happening? So it doesn't happen with the other stuff we send her. Why is it happening with that? And I don't know, maybe it's got something in there. I'm not a computer literate Superman, so, but yeah, you know what I'm talking about. But, so anyway, so those are getting billed out, but the ones that we do get billed out that we don't collect, I wanted you guys to see that, and because the board's new, that this is the letter that goes out with it. Can we put more bite into this letter? I don't know, can we send them to collections? Can we sooner than later? Can we do the intercept thing? I don't have any information on the intercept stuff.
Yeah, there's all sorts of different things that we can do. What I think, we're not talking about anything from this year because really we only have payments for January, which is the $700. So she's billing from February through August, which is 6 months of invoices are now going out. But we do have collectibles from past years. So I think that might be something that we talk with the auditors about next week, about how to recover those funds. They may have suggestions on it. It may be that we don't do tax intercept. We may hire someone who takes a percentage of the outstanding invoices.
And I really think, I don't know how you feel, but I think we should put bite into that, and if we should go after I'm sorry, I get it, everybody's got money issues, right? But, people can do payment plans, they can do something like that. We're not out to hurt anybody, but
Right.
we are out to recoup those costs, and I think it's time that we take those steps to do that.
Right.
Also on the outstanding collectibles, the city of Ripon was on there for $20,000, which that deposit's been made, it's just not on the collectibles, and so is the town of Nepiaskin. So those two have been deposited.
Payments
Payments for fire protection services. Fees from municipalities.
from.
If you look on
Fees or levy? Fees?
fees or levy.
Are they from what they kick back, fire dues, or?
Yeah, I believe it's fire dues. I'd have to look what it exactly is, but those two that were on there, one from the town of Nepiaskin and one from the city, those have been paid and deposited.
Okay.
That's all I wanted to point out.
Okay. So is it okay with you all if we delay? Let's look at next month and see if we're getting any of those invoices paid that Barb is sending out. And then after we get the audit report, or maybe we could just ask the auditor if they have a recommendation on how we recover funds.
I correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that we had somebody hired that was doing the tax intercept stuff.
Mm-mm.
I thought Doug was gonna check into that with.
I did, I talked to Jim.
And he doesn't. Oh,
Nobody. I talked with the city, City didn't want to do it because it's not their bills.
Right.
It's our bills.
Right.
And it seemed like it was gonna be too much trouble and time to set a tax intercept up for us for the little bit of money that we might get back. I know there are some, yeah, but I could look into it.
That was the trouble with, I mean, I know we talked about hiring a bill collector, or whatever you wanna call it.
And the
And
debt, the
when we
bill
did-
collector was
Right.
gonna be, you know, they get a huge percentage off, we wouldn't get much back.
We get nothing back. So,
Very little back for the trouble,
Like 50%.
yeah.
or if we're lucky.
And
So
there's-
are you proposing that we send this exact, is this what Barb is sending out right now, this exact letter? Because obviously we need to update it with our new treasurer.
Yeah, I
No,
talked
this
to her
is,
about that.
this is not, this is the letter that we've sent out in the past.
Right.
This is a sample of the letter that was
But-
sent out in the past, over past years.
I understand that, but now between February and now,
No, there's, she's sending out
Those are just
invoices.
invoices.
Yeah, those are just
Oh.
invoices that are going
They've
out.
never been invoiced.
got it. So we have some time to work on updating this.
Mhm.
Yep.
But I wanted you guys to see
Good,
it.
thank
Yeah,
you.
I think it does need to be updated a little bit, and I think, you know, a little bit more bite is fine.
Can we see what other departments are doing? Who would,
Can
We
you
can.
guys,
could we look into that?
I can,
A couple?
I can put that out there.
that would be great, and then we can talk about it in October. I'll put it on for the agenda items. Well, I'll just leave it.
Do I have to make that in a formal request, or, no, that's, we talked about it, so that's good, huh?
Okay, chief, you wanna keep her going?
Yeah. So you guys all, got the monthly report. Let me get to mine. You guys should have all gotten that, copies of it. So it was a busy month actually for us. We did 43 calls for the month, so our total call volume was 255. We gave mutual aid 3 times and we received it 0, which is pretty normal. Our members, 26 paid on call, 7 part-time paid on premise, 3 cadets. Total we have 36 members. Fire inspections are progressing. Nothing to report on that. The project upstairs, garage and grounds, I already said that nothing with the upstairs. The garage is the electrical that's left. The grounds, we did have, if you recall, we had a portion of the apron out in front of the fire garage, or the fire doors, where the engine pulls out was cracked and collapsing every time the engine would pull out. So we couldn't use that section of it. The association had the memorial, the concrete work done for the memorial. So the guy, while he was here, I asked him what he would charge for that. He gave us a good price, so I just told him to go ahead and do it because it was within the budget. So we replaced that, so we're letting that cure as long as we can, but we want to start using it before the winter months. So we took care of that. Grant application, we are going to put a grant together for new extrication equipment. So it's not a matching grant, it's a 100% grant. So we wouldn't have to match any funds for it. That's gonna be due in October.
Okay, can you
And-
bring it to the next meeting, the grant, so that we
Yep.
can, what we will do with any revenues coming in is we will authorize, particularly for a grant, we will authorize the chief's ability to apply for and accept the grant. So we're taking care of allowing him to submit the grant. If he gets the money, we're saying you're authorized to accept the money. That is a standard accounting practice for all boards.
So he needs our approval to apply for the grant?
Yes.
Is there a timeline on that, sir?
I know it's, I don't have the date right in front of me. I want to say it was between the 6th and the 15th that it's due in.
And we meet on the 4th.
Right, and it's fairly quickly after that. I think last time we got a pager grant through the same place, and I'm gonna say within 2 months, we were notified we got the grant, and then it was fairly quick after that, so. But I'll bring a copy of the grant with me next meeting, but I'll have to check the date when the grant's due. If it's due before that,
Let us know.
can I get approval to do the grant,
You can,
to apply for the grant? Because I
sure,
wouldn't
we
want
can
that to hold
separate
it
it.
up.
We can separate it, so what we would need is an motion to allow you to apply for the grant, and then if you get it, we can do a separate motion
Sure,
to
that's what
authorize accepting
I
it.
think is the best.
Okay, and that is a standard practice for all elected boards to do. I had to fight with a previous DA in Fond du Lac County about this. I won.
In the past, we have applied for a grant, and then brought it to the board, unless it was a matching grant or something, then that came to the board first.
But
In the past.
you're accepting revenue, and that's a good thing, but we have to have approval on all the revenue.
I'm not arguing that, I'm
No,
just
I
saying
know.
that's how we did it in the
Yeah,
past. So
yeah.
that was Barry's question.
Yeah, and it's a good question. So I would entertain a motion to allow the chief to apply for a grant for, what is it again?
Extrication equipment.
Extrication, I know you keep telling me that, extrication equipment. Is there a motion to do so?
But how can we do a motion if it's not on the agenda?
It's a grant application,
Okay.
and it's an action item.
I guess are you asking an
Yeah, right
action
here.
item under chief's report?
Yeah.
Under any, yeah.
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 I move to approve the Ripon Area Fire District to apply for the grant for extrication equipment.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Gary. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Yes. Take one of those.
Sorry.
Another one.
As far as the budget goes, in front of you, and you should have received it via email, I'm sorry you didn't receive the whole thing. I didn't click on the second attachment when I sent it. But I think we're all aware of our budget needs this year, as we had lengthy discussions before this new board and after the new board was in place. I worked numbers, and we have worked a lot of numbers and have racked our brains on how to prioritize and accomplish everything we need. Retaining our paid-on-call members and positive morale, encourage our members who are assigned to be on call to do so, especially on the weekends when everybody wants to go and do something. Not looking others take it, not having the members look to always give their weekends away, and sustain our daytime staffing. Along with, obviously, how do we get a new engine, how do we do all these things? So no matter what, how we work the numbers, there will be a recommendation to increase the budget to cover the deficit. And if we increase that budget under our cap that we can go, I think that can cover nearly everything we need. There's not a lot of fluff in the budget at all. I've cut some things out of the budget to help come up with the numbers I came up with and still do and take care of what we need.
Do you want
Um,
to say what you've cut? No
that-
more?
I will in a minute. You're getting ahead of me.
No, but I mean, you just mentioned it.
Yeah. Our department has not had a raise in 7 years. So, you know, the city gets a 3% raise across the board, and the city pretty much gets a raise every year. So, with that being said, and sometimes that raise is a little bit more to offset the healthcare insurance costs from the employee, but obviously we don't have that issue. So that somewhat counters that. We need to increase the on-call pay to be comparable, like with EMS. This has been a recent complaint and has started to affect morale. I feel we really need to increase our on-call pay to be competitive and fair with everyone else in the city, and help retain our members, especially now. The difference between working on the numbers, you know, we can't do a 3% raise and increase our on-call pay. Just can't do it. So, the budget you have in front of you reflects an increase for the on-call pay for those who are on call. The budget will also reflect an increase to sustain the paid on-premise part-time staffing, but will not be a pay increase of any type for the current paid on-premise structure. So they're not getting a pay increase, we're just increasing that deficit that we knew we were gonna have last year for this year. We're increasing that so that we don't, well, we're potentially increasing that. So we don't have that deficit and can sustain that program. The things I removed out of here, out of the budget right now, are, if you turn the page on the budget detail list, which is this one in front of you, some of the things I have taken out of there were weekly cleaning and mowing services, because we're doing that. Equipment rental for maintenance, that's $650, because we don't need to do that. That can be absorbed into the maintenance end of it if we have to do something. On page 3, you're going to see hose testing under repair and maintenance supplies. That actually, a bill wasn't there for the last 2 years, but that was a $4,500 line item. And then under new airbags, where's the airbags?
It's on the second page at the top,
Second page. Oh.
$4,000.
Yep, so that came out too. So, so those were things I removed to help with the numbers, to get somewhat in line with the revenue end of it. So right now, we're about a $28,000 deficit. But obviously that, if you increase that bottom number, the bottom line, you know, the budget, that would take care of most or all of that, depending on what the percentage you want to raise the budget. Obviously, I don't think in the past 10 years I've been here, we haven't raised the budget to max. Obviously, that's going to be the recommendation of us is to raise that budget to 5%. And that's the recommendation. So
Yeah, and that's not my recommendation.
that's,
Yeah,
let me rephrase that.
that's
That's
their
the chief's
recommendation.
recommendation.
That's the chief's recommendation.
and,
Because the chief and I worked on this budget pretty stringently.
yep,
My goal was to not have any levy increase. Now, if the board sees differently, that's up to you. We went through the numbers, leaving the levy, which it should say instead of fire protection fees for, I mean, is that what you consider levy as fire protection fees for municipalities? Because it's not really
Where are
a
you
fee. It's, let's look at revenues right now. the top of the first page, this one. So you have state fire dues, and then you have fire protection. It should just say fire protection for municipality. It's not a fee, it's levy. That's the levy that the towns pay and the city pays. Then you have fire inspection fees. That's what you're working on right now, right, Chief? Getting fire inspections
Yep.
for all commercial, manufacturing and retail buildings?
Yep.
Okay. And because he has, the daytime people are now certified to do inspections, he upped that revenue because he believes they can get more done. Fire prevention services, interest income, miscellaneous revenue, and then we need to make a motion if you choose to move the fire call fees was listed in capital revenue, but it's an operational issue, so I don't know why it was in capital. And those are the fees that we discussed earlier in the meeting.
They were in capital because we wanted something to increase the capital thing. Like, if he doesn't spend the whole budget, what's left over is supposed to go into capital.
We can do that
As-
after the fact, yeah.
And it's, well, it was in the bylaws, I believe, that's what it was supposed to be,
Then we would have to rewrite the bylaws
if you wanted to do that.
if we want to do that. Because right
But
now,
that's why it went in there, because we don't want to, nobody wanted to levy for capital expenses.
right,
So that was one way to do that. Now, if he sold something, that should go back in there too. And then if the budget was under, if he was under budget,
then you would
then
sweep that into
that would go
capital.
into capital also.
But right now, you have a significant deficit in your revenue for operations. That's
I
why
believe that.
I'm making that recommendation. With any excess at the year can be put into capital. And I believe the city bonds for their trucks.
Mhm.
The city bonds for the trucks. In the towns, you all have other funds set aside. You do it differently than the city does. And I believe in the past, that's what you've used for the down payment on equipment, is the money that you all have reserved.
Correct.
Okay,
But you also should remember, I think when we did the rapid response vehicle, that came out of the capital because we had it in there.
yeah, and that's where it has to come out of.
Right, but what I mean, there was money in there, we didn't have to levy because there was money in there. If we're
Right.
not putting any money in there, then anything we buy, we're gonna have to do something different.
Yes,
I mean, then it's gonna have to,
Either way, and Ellen and I had discussions on this, and it was, she doesn't want to use the money we have left over to pay for anything like operational, right? So she's saying take the operational fire calls, move it to the operations end of it from the capital, because we're still gonna have leftover money from our fire call, from our budget, and our fire call fees would come in here. Follow me?
for
yeah,
operations.
So-
you're not putting it in capital, you're putting it in there.
But so the money we have left over from last year, I know there's money left over from last year, I asked, I don't have the exact number, but subtract the depreciation away, the real number of leftover funds, I know is, I don't wanna say significant, cause I don't know exactly what the number is. But, if we have that left over, then in 2020, we had the 70,000 left over. So right now, if we order a fire engine, it's gonna be 2 to 3 years before we can get a fire engine, before we have to pay for that. That's another X amount of years of budgeting that can have leftover funds to go towards that. Because either way, the city is gonna have to bond for that. There's no way we can pay that. You guys, financially, you're rich. I'm kidding. But financially, you guys can do that. You guys can pay your portion, just like you have in the past. Where the city is not gonna be able to do that without bonding for it. There's just no way.
I believe that, but, okay. Let's say one of your runaround cars or the Tahoe or something goes to And then you're gonna come and say, you know, the Tahoe has gone to pieces. We're gonna have to get a new Tahoe, and I found one at a good price. But we're gonna have to say no, because there's no capital funds that we can clean up. Nope, you're gonna have to take it back to the city, they're gonna have to talk about it, and they're gonna have to levy some money from there, which the city's not gonna do. So you're screwed, that's what I'm saying.
Well, if you want to move that $75,000 back into capital, then we can probably let all the daytime people go.
Well, I'm
I'm
not
just
saying that,
saying,
Alan, I'm just saying,
I get what
sometimes
Yeah.
you cut everything so damn close. Now,
Yep,
you live in a house,
yep,
if your natural gas goes up, you're gonna have to pay it.
yep,
If you wanna drive the Fond du Lac, you're gonna have to pay for the gas.
yep.
This isn't any different. We're so devoted not to raise any taxes that isn't in the cards. I mean, you can say it is, but it's not. You can't get the same service with less money when all the service stuff went up.
Then the board needs to determine what you're comfortable with in going up. I will tell you right now, the city of Ripon cannot absorb $100,000 additional in levy for the fire district when we have a police department and an EMS team too. This is not the only department.
I understand
So you all
that.
have to decide what you're comfortable with for increasing levy.
And I don't wanna do it either, and there's a thing in there and that that happened before. The budget up for the city was like 3%, but for the town, it was more like 7%, because
Right,
the valuations had changed.
right, right.
So we moved it back down, because if it was 7, then we have to go back and we have to get approved,
Right,
just like you.
right.
So, I mean, I'm just saying, some of this stuff was set up for good reasons. And I still think they're good reasons. Now, I'm not saying we talked about this back when we hired these people,
Mm-hmm.
that we could probably do it if we used that money, that leftover budget money, to pay for it. And I'm not saying that was wrong. I'm just saying, sometimes when you start fiddling with all this stuff, it causes other problems as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to think about those other problems it can cause too.
You're right.
You know, we don't want to be back where we were 10 years ago or whatever it was, and the budget was so overspent. We had to go back to, because we still have to pay it. If the fire district comes back to the city, we still got to pay it, or the towns.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying, be careful.
Well, and that's what the board is here for. If you have different ideas about revenues, throw them out. This is a draft. This is a first kick
I'm
at
not
it.
picking on the budget at all. I'm just saying, sometimes I just don't like to.
Well, this is a big deal, Gary. It's a big deal because we're asking, I am recommending that you transfer these fees from capital to operations, because operations is in a deficit.
How much?
And really, it's an operational thing.
I'm not disagreeing with that at all.
No, yeah, I know.
I mean, most of the money you spend is out. I mean,
Unfortunately.
Well, it's a service.
well, that's right.
Service.
You know,
So it's tough. I mean, we don't have to have a budget tonight, but we certainly are doing our first kick at the can.
So aren't we saying that, what we were just talking about, if it's operations, it should stay with operations, and then if we have it left over, we can move it to capital. But also Gary is saying, what are we going to do to have more in our capital budget so that if something goes wrong, we have some? So these are two different things. It's not one and the same, right? One is moving it to where it should be for accountability purposes, and the other one is how to find money for capital.
Right, right. It's not, and my recommendation to move it isn't, it's based upon what's going on now. You must have done this, what, 10 years ago? How did you set this up?
I don't know, it was set up
It was before I got here.
So it's,
Or, well, you were the only one here.
Yeah, he was,
yeah,
I was here.
so it's
I was
something.
I was here.
It's something that was set up for capital. And when I was going through the budget, it seemed to me that given the fact that the number of employees has expanded so much to deliver services, that was an area, because it is an operational issue, that there should be an offset in operations. That was the reason behind it. Now, you don't have to agree with it, but it seemed a solution.
Could the president remind us of what we're able to legally request increase of the levy?
You can request anything you want, whether you will get it or not. There's no legal limit to what you can
There-
request.
There is a limit. If it's below a certain amount,
Yes.
we don't have to go back.
I thought it
Five,
was-
it was 5% or below.
And it's because it's a district, we have different taxing authorities. So we can go up in the request for the levy if we want. I'm just saying that should be done cautiously, because we are responsible to the taxpayers, and there's a balance between, we have to have good fire service. And there's a very delicate balance between the cost of that. The other thing the chief and I talked about was, in the future, if we wanted to go out to referendum to all 3 municipalities to increase levy that way. That's another possibility on the table. We can't do it this fall, we've missed,
Obviously not for this budget,
right.
but
And let the people decide if they want to increase the levy beyond that 5% or 3% or whatever it's going to be in the future.
I think, and Chief, if you got something else, but I think moving that money to operations, that's what it's for, would be my recommendation. And then to look at how do we get the deficit from there? And do we, whether we go 3%, 4%, or 5%, or whatever. But, we haven't raised that like that. I don't know if they even did it before, I have no idea. But, I mean,
We've gone to the limit more than once.
Yeah.
okay,
I think since you've been here too.
I think we went 4%. But we never went, we never went to 5%, I don't think.
Well, we
I
can
didn't
look,
look
we
back.
can look at the cost allocation for the budget, which is this document. Because I have some
We haven't
questions.
gone over it. I mean, I'll agree with it, but we've used.
And I'm very careful budgeting with my spending.
Do a good, I'll
No.
say you do a good job on your budget and sticking with it.
Okay, so, I hope I grabbed the right one. Nope, I did. Grabbed the wrong one.
Oh, this one, all
Was
right.
it, it was on the, it was sent out. wasn't
It was sent out. I think I might have sent out the wrong one though. I think I sent out 22 instead of 23.
Is this cost allocation for 2022 fire district
Yeah,
budget is what we got?
I did the 2023. Chief, did I, or Doug, I sent the 2023 to you, didn't I?
I was looking for something like that.
Oh, yeah.
I thought I saw it, then I couldn't find it on the email.
Okay, well,
Well, I'll just
we don't
resend
have
it.
to approve, we don't
We're
have
not
to
approving
approve
anything
anything
tonight.
tonight.
This is just for your,
Yeah, this is just, so I had a couple questions that I think Gary and Barry and Mike can answer for me, because I've worked with equalized value for a couple decades. And you go to the state and you pull the equalized value, the state sets the equalized value. And so the towns in the city do, the first question is, we do equalized value of improvements. We don't do the full equalized value. And so I'm wondering why we don't, and I don't know if Gary and Barry can share that.
All I guess I'm gonna say is that's the way it was when I came on the board. How it was set up way back when.
The value, we wanted to be fair with everybody. And there used to be, if you remember, there was more people in this fire district than there are now. There was 2 more towns in this fire district.
Which towns, Gary?
Green Lake and
Matoma.
Oh, I lived in Matoma, yeah, because you guys they came up to my house a few times.
Yes, we did.
Yep. Yes, you did.
So when we set this up, we wanted to be fair with everybody. Because you can look at Green Lake, their argument was we're paying too much in this budget. You could say, no, you're not, you're paying the same. People living on the lake are paying exactly the same as I am living on my farm.
Mhm.
And that was what we wanted. Everybody pays the same. You pay the same as I do.
So that's why you went with the improvements,
Right.
to kind of not include acreage.
Right.
'Cause
It's
it's-
not, and the
okay.
theory was that ground doesn't burn.
Okay, all right. Then that's helpful, thank you. So then my second question is, and Mike and I have been going back and forth for, 6 weeks on this? Is Nepiescum is using a different formula. We looked at it and it starts with assessed value, and then they somehow move to equalized value. The way it would typically be done, it would be the improvements on equalized value, and then is it 44% we cover of Nepiescum, or 40?
44.
It's like
44?
44%.
And then we would, instead of dividing that by 100, like we do for the city of Ripon and the town of Ripon, which is 100% coverage, we do 44%. But the numbers are coming out different.
But it's broke down between
It's
Berlin
broke down
and
different,
Ripon. Our whole budget, the whole valuation is broke down.
Right.
They're
Right.
not taking their whole thing and taking 44%. They're assessing, there's a line that goes across that I'm sure you guys know where it is.
Because if you.
They're taking those properties that are on this side of the line,
Right.
which maybe, I'm sure it wouldn't come out because, there might
The
be fancier
values are
houses and
different when
stuff.
you look at it.
They might have higher values north of that line than they do south of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're okay with a different equation for them?
Well, I think it's only fair, those people are paying the same as you and I and her. They're not, the people north of that line aren't paying for the fire service here, just
Right.
like they aren't paying for the school service.
They're paying their other fire
They're
departments,
paying,
right?
right. And those people, and if it's, maybe the south end of Nepiescum is poorer than the north side, I don't know, but I think it should be on those homes what they're for, not taking the whole town and then doing it by 40%.
So that's what I need from,
That's
that's
what you
the
were-
history we need. If you've all agreed to that, then I can't go to the state documents and get their assessed value
And
and
that's
work
why
with it.
Right,
that
because
guy does it.
we're only.
It's always been a problem.
It's broken
It's
down.
always been a problem.
Getting
Okay.
it down here because their assessor has to break those things off.
Right, and it's broke down from 1 to 21 as far as Ripon, and then the other
Gosh, I did
portions
know
are.
this.
Well, that's why I need you or Barry, you guys to help, because I'm new at this, and it was very different than equalized value for the town of Ripon and the city of Ripon. Because they're not really using equalized value, they're taking the assessed value and then assigning an equalized value to it, whereas the state typically assigns the equalized value. Does that make sense?
It doesn't. The state does it, of course it doesn't.
it should be part of, like, recorded in, you know.
Yeah, well, I think there should be some sort of, can you get your people to do a document that's kept on file here? Because I probably won't make it a year as president, you'll all kick me out. But so that we have documentation on the history of it, because Gary may not be on the board all the time.
Well,
and
it goes
Gary may
back
not-
to when we changed the equalized valuation at a 5-year rolling. It started when I first came on the board. That was voted in like 1 or 2 months after I got on the board.
I thought that 5-year rolling,
That's been on since we started, because we wanted it fair. And if you look at this,
Because it did change,
There's
change
changes.
our amount a little bit when we agreed
it
to
does
that.
change your amount. You know, it changes the balance. You know, there was a couple of years in here where the city went down and the town went up. And, you know, we don't have the value the city does, but it's, if you look at the change in value. it can be
When I get
quite
home tonight, I'll pull the 2023 worksheet and send it to you. I'll come from, the
big. You
problem
can just
is.
send it to Barry.
Oh, send it to, I can't get onto Outlook on my computer and access my Outlook email. It's very difficult, so I just email it to you from my personal email so that you all have it. Because that's part of this, I have to forward it to myself in Outlook, and then in Outlook I have to forward it to Karen to send out. That's part of my struggles.
Anyway, at least we got that straightened out.
Well, no, I mean, thank you, because I have no idea.
Because I know the valuations are different between Ripon and Berlin.
Yeah.
Brooks.
Yeah,
How
and don't
it's-
you
how
do
it's
some
broke
Utica
down.
too? No, it's just Berlin? Okay. Hey Chief, can I ask a favor? Can you have Barb add a column on here and then give us the total, the subtotals for each area? Like, so we can see the total for the salaries? Just add a column?
She should have that, because that was there was originally something on there.
I thought so, but it's nice to see like the subtotals for personnel services, contractual services,
That was kind of broke down by areas.
section, yeah. That helps me. Does anybody else have any questions for the chief?
Yeah, so my question is different than what you're seeing here on page 2 of the operations, where it says percentages of budget left or used. Are you, because in here it says, for instance, part-time salary, 62% has been used up already. Is that what you're looking for?
No. No, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking on the budget, that proposal.
Yeah,
When we look at the expenditures on your budget detail, that we have a subtotal for each
Yeah,
section.
so they should have a subtotal for yours, a
Okay.
subtotal for here, then, and then, it's just, and then they break it down, contractual services, and then each, she should have that, because that was original, when I did
Yeah,
the budget, I know it
it's
was in there.
easier for me to see, like, I can't add that all up in my head. It's easier for me to see a subtotal and then a full total.
Yep,
So now I gotta find my agenda.
Going back to what we'll discuss future as far as what we're considering, if we're going to raise our levy or not. I don't know, just in general, my philosophy is if you raise a little bit over time, we're not gonna surprise, folks with, all of a sudden, if we go for 5-10 years without, now all of a sudden we have to raise it a bunch. That doesn't seem to be smart practice.
It's not, you're right.
So,
and I agree with that, but we're in a predicament from our staffing from last year, and we knew that was gonna come. And we didn't plan for that
yeah.
because it wasn't an issue until last year.
My
So-
point is, I'm inclined to raise, if the conversation is, let's not let's try not to increase at all. Obviously, I don't want to spend money that we shouldn't be spending, that we can cut out, but, again, if we raise little by little, because we know services are, you know, things are going up in general, that seems like smart practice.
And that is a good suggestion. But I wanted to begin here
Okay,
so that, and I asked the chief to submit a deficit budget. I didn't want it to balance. I wanted you to see a deficit budget, so you can think about how you want to balance it. And if you want to increase levy a few percent, then that's a decision you have to make.
When we're talking about this, I think if we move that 75,000 over to operations where we feel it belongs, and then that cuts our deficit down a little bit, we have a deficit of about $28,000. If we raise the levy up a little bit, 3% or 4% to take care of that, we'll be almost at, and then I go back to see what else I can cut to make up for that other percent, but
I
I
think
mean-
1% would be 42,000, which would,
how much?
42,000,
No, how much percent?
1.
Oh,
A 1% increase?
No, that would be 10%, no,
Yeah.
I'm wrong, because I was
Yeah,
thinking millions.
I'm like,
Yeah,
I was thinking
I'm like, that's
millions.
perfect.
No,
I mean,
it'd be
my
what,
calculator wasn't calculating that way.
2 or 3%, Mark?
Yeah, about
About
3%
3%.
would give you close.
So the other question I have is,
And close, and getting close is good, and we can go back and to the drawing board a little bit, but I just don't know what else is there. I mean,
is there anything else that the daytime staff could do that you don't have to hire out anymore?
that's the hose testing.
Right.
The weekly cleaning and mowing, and when I looked at it, there was really nothing else that we could cut out. We can sit down again.
Well,
Yeah, we
but
can-
this also
but-
includes the on-call pay for your captains. This budget
For
does.
everyone, not just the captains.
For everyone.
The
Okay.
lieutenants, the firefighters, and we have a good structure in place to make that
And
happen.
that's $3 an hour on the week and $5 an hour on the weekend?
No,
No.
we just went to weekends.
Oh, you just went to weekends?
Yes, we cut out the
Okay.
weekdays,
Okay,
because they're
Alright.
still being taken care of. It's still comparable with EMS.
okay.
It's still,
So how much is it per hour on the weekends?
so it was $1,
$1 for fire,
$1 for firefighters.
$1.50 for engineers.
Yeah, $3 for lieutenant and $5 for a captain,
Yeah, 3 and 2, yeah, 3 and 5, yep.
which is comparable with,
EMS?
yes.
Okay,
So, again, we have to take care of our paid on call.
Yep.
Yep, we just had incidents, and those are some of the things that came out of it, and, the paid on call haven't been given a raise in 7 years. When you need to take care of them.
yeah, I agree.
And, so, again, if we can move that 75,000 into operations where it belongs, if we can increase the levy, and that'll get us close, and then we go back to the drawing board for the rest. I don't know what else we can do, but if we do this, there should be no one who complains because they're not being taken care of. Because, and that, we're showing them that, look what you mean to us, okay? Just like, you're comparable with everyone else. So,
Well, I think it's a good start. I think it's a good start.
and I do think there's probably, when we talk about, where was it? Fire prevention services, I was being conservative, but I think that we can increase that. We gotta get better about our billing and better about our collections. We might be in better shape than we think. I don't know.
ask a question then of, are we, I guess, we want to finish the budget, or I have a question about the chief's report?
I'm confused too.
Well, the chief's report has the budget on it.
Right. So
Okay, go ahead.
so I have a question for one of those items, but not the budget.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Just in general, the fire inspection update, I know you said they're moving along. Can you estimate what percentage do you think we are at? Because they have to get done earlier this year,
Yeah,
right?
October 31st,
Yeah.
and we'll be done by October 31st. I don't know what the percentage is.
You think we're half done? We don't know.
No, we're not half done, probably a little over a quarter of the way done.
Okay, thanks.
So, yeah.
Are there any more questions for the chief?
But I can.
So, the 75,000 for the fire call fees, that's just a estimate for what you bring in from all the fire calls throughout the year?
Yeah, that should be next year what we bring in from fire calls.
Because we'd be billing them.
We'll be more aggressive in our collections. We'll be better about getting information to bill. We'll be, obviously the invoices will go out. So,
What have we been bringing in?
what's what?
What have we been bringing in?
$700.
Well, I mean, over the last few years, I don't know what we brought in. I'd have to look at it. But, I think that number should be more than operations.
Did that answer your question, Mike?
No, because we
Just
should
maybe
know
you're on
that.
track for your fire inspection. What
We should.
percentage?
Somebody
You
should
feel
know it.
confident you're on track.
I will,
We-
I will,
We don't
I will
actually
look.
see it, so, but somebody should know that.
How much is coming in?
Yeah,
What percent are paying their bills?
yeah, I mean, if it's only 25,000 that we're bringing in, we can't mark down that we're get 75,000,
Right, yeah.
you know?
I'll look into that and I'll get that number for you.
And everybody should be billed. I mean, if you go out to a fire call, you have to bill everybody. We have that fee schedule that's now on policies and procedures, so.
Did EMS for the city of Ripon go to a new system to collect?
I'm not on a committee for that.
Yes, they
But
did.
I think Gary talked about
But
it.
is that something to look into?
When we discussed that before, it was, we didn't run enough calls to really have that service. So, because that was something that,
Are you talking about
the
the new?
Billing.
The billing.
billing agents.
They're doing something different for the towns now.
No, I'm sorry, Ellen. The thing for the towns is a contract.
Right, that's,
That's a different thing. The billing, I think that Jolene is talking about is billing for services for the patient, for the transport.
Yeah.
And so they had a study done, and the study says, no, you better do it like this, because you're
Oh, okay.
gonna be undercharging and overcharging, and both will get you in trouble.
Okay,
Because if you're not charging enough, then you're missing that money, and then the insurance company is saying, well, that's what you've been charging, why are you wanting more now? Or if you
Okay,
charge too
okay.
much, it's like you're in big trouble because you're billing too much and we want our money back, plus, whatever
Okay.
they're gonna do, that's a different thing.
oh, okay.
If we did, honestly, if the chief here did 20 calls a day or 15 calls a day, probably something like that would make sense to build that out, have someone come and look at it, but it's a different kind of thing anyway.
Well, they're not a district, we're a district, so we have different statutory.
We have different requirements, plus it's house fires and MVA, it's a one-car accident, it's
Okay.
lighting strike, natural disasters, how do you bill for all that stuff?
We don't
You
build
don't.
lightning strikes.
Right, but you don't bill for natural disasters, and
No.
that's fundamentally different than EMS service is gonna be providing.
Right,
So,
gotcha. Okay, so I'm sorry, when we started talking about budget, I went into the full budget discussion, so I apologize for that. If there are no more questions for the chief, can we go, if we approve this 5-year strategic plan request for proposals tonight, it can be sent out tomorrow. So has everybody read it?
I have a question on it though.
What?
To send this out and get these in, does that mean we'll still come up whether we're going to do it or not? right?
Say that
Okay.
again?
So you send this out, we're gonna get people
Mhm.
bidding on it.
Mhm.
We're still gonna get to vote whether we do it or don't do it, right? When we
Yeah.
get the cost.
Yeah, if we don't choose someone to do it, we're not doing it. I'm talking with the city of Ripon right now about offsetting costs of this. So we may ask for the towns to kick in a little bit too.
We have to find out what it's gonna cost us before.
Right, we
get
have
down
no
there.
idea what it's gonna cost. So that's a good question, Gary.
So just to confirm, we're sending that out, and then they're gonna send us back, this is what it's gonna cost to do it.
They're gonna send
And
you,
then those come back to the board for
they
approval.
all come back
or
to the
denial.
board. Yep, they all come back to the board. And I asked for 8 hard copies so that the chief has one and each of us gets our own hard copy from whoever responds. Mike, did you have any questions on it? No, look okay to you? Gary?
I did have one more thing.
Because this is your
It'll
time to
come to me.
catch anything that's wrong in there.
Well, there are just some small things that, I mean, I didn't know, can be also just grammatical, I guess, but
Okay.
if we're talking about it.
Okay,
On the first page, we put the Ripon Area Fire District abbreviated RAFD with periods.
yeah.
Either we put periods or not, then on the next page,
I
we don't
told-
put
yeah,
periods.
Let's take it out.
I prefer no periods.
Can we just make it consistent and then
Yeah.
not put periods?
Yep, no periods, I agree.
And then, this is a small thing, but since it's going out to other people, Ripon, in our address on the very top, let's put a comma after Ripon and then capitalize the I in Wisconsin.
Yes, ma'am,
There doesn't have to be a period after this.
correct.
Remind me how to spell Nepisk again? How?
N-E-P-E-U-S-K-U.
Okay, it looked.
It should be right, I had to keep changing
Good.
it. I see that there's 2 page ones on page 1, so I'll eliminate that in the footer.
Question on the second page. Financial analysis and implications. Analyze revenue and funding sources from partner municipalities and service contract relative to their capability to fund the recommendation. What does that mean?
Seeing it.
Where is that?
Okay, I'm not seeing that.
It's about proposal
Oh, maybe it's the
responses.
third page.
Page 3.
Oh,
No,
no
it
wonder
isn't
I'm not
page.
seeing it.
Yeah, it's another page.
Okay, it's got financial analysis and implications.
Mhm.
And it's just before proposed
Right.
responses.
Right. So we want them to look at our funding sources and make recommendations. I mean, maybe there's another funding source we're not aware of. I mean, they have more experience with us than we do, and districts, because districts are different animals than departments.
Right, the joint fire department may provide something different.
And
that-
maybe they'll say we need to go out for a referendum to
Okay.
increase, I don't know what that could be, but you don't want to eliminate it. And just because they
I
give
was
us.
just curious what it
Yeah,
was.
that's, I think that's what it is, right, chief?
Yeah, whether it's, maybe they say you should go out and contract services from these, maybe, hey, these 2 communities, we looked at them, they should be with you, or they
Yeah.
should be without you, and this is how you go about doing it.
Yep.
Whatever.
Jolene, anything else that you
It's just
caught?
different ideas, Gary.
Well, I just feel funny pointing out really small things,
No,
but under
go ahead.
salaries, the last sentence under that section, establish pay steps,
Period?
there should be a period.
Okay.
But maybe in general, what are we saying here specifically? Establish pay steps for who? I feel like perhaps that could be
Oh,
continued on with more clarity. Establish pay steps for,
full-time staff
Or for all.
for all? Okay.
or, I mean, I guess we'd be looking to them for a recommendation, wouldn't we? I mean,
They're gonna look,
so,
they would look at
yeah.
comparables to everyone else,
Mhm.
basically.
We were just looking at our planning for growth, but what Gary just pointed out, like, I mean, for me, I don't know, if you were looking at that last sentence, as well as service, that looks like there's no space, or maybe
Oh,
there is.
There isn't. Good
Um,
eyes.
um, And just in general, can you remind me, where does it say, I guess the whole thing is inherent that just best practices, like, there could be things here that we are not being specific about, but we're asking in general, what are best practices to help a department of our size? Where, do we say that specifically to give them, that we would be looking for, if these are organizations that work with a lot of other places?
We could put it at the bottom of the first paragraph if you could come up with language. We seek recommendations for best practices for fire districts of our size.
Yeah, right there. I mean, you would think that would be assumed, but we can't assume anything, can we? Because ultimately, that's what all of this is about, right? And then the address that we just talked about on the front page, let's just make sure that that also then reflects it on the back, on that very last page, you know, with Ripon, comma, WI,
Yep.
capitalized, yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
Again, this is small, but I'll state it. It says, please provide, it says proposal may be delivered via email, mail, or in person. And then we don't give the email here, but we do say questions can be given to this. I'm not sure it's clear as to
It's
what
at the
email.
below.
Yeah.
But which email? Both emails? I think we should be
Yes.
just very clear there. At the emails
Yes.
below.
I think they could say the emails below, because the chief and I will be sharing them.
The emails below. Okay.
Okay, anything else?
Something that Jolene said right at the bottom of page 1, it does say analysis should also include the salary comparison to full-time staff to be comparable with other departments of the size and call volume. That's pretty much what you moved above, wasn't it?
So my general was,
That's what she brought up, right?
I
Is what
want,
you're saying.
you mean for established pay steps?
No,
No.
didn't you add something?
No, what I said is that in general, we're looking for best practices as a department. I mean, if whatever firm we choose, aren't we ultimately wanting to know, is there anything else that we haven't thought to ask about? What are best practices for a department? Maybe we are already doing all of them. But I think if we're paying for a firm that does this for, for pay, if they see things that just because we haven't asked, we want to know what recommendations they have, what are best practices based on our size, based on our area that they see. And that could go beyond, it fits what we were saying, but this is specific to salary.
Couldn't it go right there?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I get what you're
that-
saying.
It doesn't matter where it goes, you want it to go at the bottom of that?
I think,
that
I think
paragraph?
what Mike's
Yeah.
saying,
Okay.
add it to
Mike, that's
there.
good. I thought you were saying it's not needed, but you're saying it could go
No,
there.
Okay.
no,
Thanks,
I
Mike.
just-
So how I wrote it was, we seek recommendations for best practices for fire districts of our size.
I mean, you know, because otherwise it was up here and then, you know, kind of keep it all together.
That's great. I like it.
Okay, so I can make these changes on my computer and send it to the chief in the morning. I've had 2 inquiries from groups, and I'll check with the chief to see, are you gonna put it on a listserv, or are you gonna send it out to the folks that we talked about at the last meeting?
Either way, I'm fine doing it, whatever you want.
Could
I
do
mean,
both.
Like I was gonna say, like, we could do
Yeah,
both.
let's do both.
It doesn't cost us anything to get different people to send us different things.
Right. Okay, with these changes, and if you have any more, email me or text me tonight. I would entertain a motion to have the chief send this out tomorrow with the changes that you all have recommended.
And copy the board president? Is that what you're saying? Send it out and copy the board president? I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah,
She's gonna send it to me.
I'll send it to
out.
him, I'll do the revisions and send it to him.
But you're saying your motion is for him to then send it out tomorrow?
Yes.
And I'm just
To
adding,
the list, oh,
how
you want
about
me, oh,
copy our board
sure.
president? Just so you know it's done and
Sure, are you gonna make that motion?
okay, let's see how I can word this. I move to request that our board president makes the updates as talked about at this meeting for the request for proposals, to then send it to our fire chief and authorize that being sent out to both the firms
That we discussed?
that we've discussed as well as to the listserv, and to copy our board presidents on the email that is used to send it out. That sounds quite wordy, but I think I covered it.
You want me to send it out and then send it out and copy her in the email? That's, I copy people in all the emails, like, I mean, yeah, she would get copies anyway, but I don't know how it was wordy, but I understand what you were saying.
Just for a second.
I get it.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Gary. Is there any further discussion?
Never get to be first, I'm always second.
Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The motion passes unanimously. I'll work on this in the morning because as you can tell by now, I can't do numbers in my head anymore. And I say the wrong words. Okay, we did the budget planning and then Jolene, I think you had asked to have the new truck purchase on here, so.
We need to,
Oh, you
we
want to
skipped
do
over
your,
hiring.
okay, let's do your hiring.
So, we conducted interviews last week, of part-time members, future part-time members hiring. The bylaws state differently than we've done for the last 10 years. So I just want to make sure that I got the board approval, but the applicant will complete a fire district employment application, which is done, a background check, which is done. The applicant will be reviewed by a hiring committee, which is done, interviewed by a hiring committee, which has been done last week. That committee consisted of Safety Chief Burton, Captain Boris, Captain Hollitz, and then went to the Deputy Chief and myself. So we had a 2-panel interview.
Lieutenant Plum was there too.
What's that?
Lieutenant.
And Lieutenant Mum was there for part of it. So if you turn, and it says they supposed to take a physical agility test, which we never have done. Another background check, and the application shall be reviewed by the district board for final approval, which we've never done. That the board is left at hiring up to the department, and such final approval for hiring should be within 45 days. If we have people who are interested and we're gonna wait 45 days, they're probably, good chance they're gonna be gone somewhere else. So I guess we wanted to hire them like we normally do, and the board hasn't been involved before. And I think that I called Ellen and I said, I don't wanna not do something that the bylaws say, but this is the way we've always done it, so, but this is a time sensitive thing. And she said, well, let's talk about it at the board level, let's see, just bring it to the board and let us know you're gonna hire them. And
We need to change those policies and procedures.
we do, but I think
Yeah.
that we talked about verbiage in
Right.
somewhere
Right,
tonight to take action, just to say, until these policies are done, the chief has the power to hire as he has for the past 10 years. However,
yeah, we really need to rework those policies. and
we
procedures.
interviewed them, they've passed their backgrounds.
And you did ask their citizenship status.
Yep,
That
and
is a
we,
question that's now being asked.
yep, and we did pass they did pass their backgrounds, and their physicals are scheduled tentatively, just as long as you guys said, okay, go ahead, so. But this has not been an issue in the past, and
That's how we've done it,
Right, but it's,
but
It's in
we've got, it's.
conflict.
not to
yes,
say,
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's why we wanna
Yeah.
do it right,
Right.
and so we wanna make sure that,
right,
we're getting board approval before we do this, and then we would like to see that the bylaws be adapted to fit needs of how we are doing it, or should do it
and I
going
don't think
forward.
the board necessarily wants to discipline or fire or hire. That's not really our job. But thank you for bringing it to us. So I will entertain a motion to have the chief and the deputy chief go ahead and hire by suspending that policy and procedure for the time being.
So
Is that a motion you just made?
You can make that motion.
Well, you can make the motion, I can
I
second it.
can't make the motion. I'm
You're always second.
facilitating the meeting. I don't make motions. I don't want to.
I'll make a motion to suspend the hiring policies in the handbook
Yeah, and to utilize past practice.
and utilize past practices.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mike. Is there any discussion? And Gary was helpful with, I think at our last meeting, you had said, or Barrett, or no, you weren't, I don't think you were here, that was some kind of boilerplate policies and procedures that's being used that really wasn't tailored for this district.
No, it was, they copied it from somebody else pretty much, because nobody wanted to go through all the work, I think.
I
And
like
we
that.
were probably being cheap.
I like that stuff, I'll do it. I do, I'm a nerd. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okey dokey, there you go.
thank you.
All right, new truck purchase.
Well, you really can't go out and get prices until you get, until the board approves to move along with the fire truck purchase, for us to go out and get specs done and, go to the different fire companies to see, hey, here's our spec. Can you meet the specifications that we're looking for? Do you have any, we can't even go out and say, do you have any, what do you call it, demo ones that are being built, like when we built the ladder truck? That was a demo truck that was being built, that's why we saved some money on it. We can't really do anything until the board approves to go out and get information on, and specifications on building a fire truck. Doesn't mean we're buying it, doesn't mean we're, and help me out here if I'm not saying something
No,
correctly.
you're saying
Doesn't
right.
mean we're buying it, doesn't mean anything like that. All it is going out and to get prices, because we can't do anything until we have something that says, hey, you know, this manufacturer, they met our spec and that's the price. Here's another price, here's another price. Or this one has 2 demo models and come back with options for purchasing a truck. I know that, I was just told that in October, the price of one company is going up $75,000 in October for the price of a fire engine. So people, that's why it's out 2 to 3 years. And that came from Runner's Fire Equipment. And that price increase. And that's why everybody's out 2 to 3 years. Because everybody's jumping on it to secure their price, secure their order, and that's where we're at. We're looking 2 to 3 years out to purchase a fire engine. If we get lucky enough, and there's something out there that's a demo model that we can get as a savings like we did for the ladder truck, but I don't think, because of demand, I don't think that's gonna happen this time. I really don't. So I guess if we're talking about fire truck purchase, if we sit on this for another 6 months, then we're talking another 2 to 3 years out. I think at some point we need to make a decision and give us the approval to go ahead and start speccing and get information out there to see what it's gonna cost for a fire engine.
Would you like it on the October agenda for action? It's not an actionable item tonight.
Well, also, aren't we at a level of, outside of getting specs, you know, where in our budget, we just were talking about a deficit, how are we going to try to fund this?
Well, the city bonds,
I understand that,
and then the towns have a different way of doing it. We do have money in the capital improvement. What's the percentage of down payment that they like?
You know what? God, I don't recall what the ladder truck was, do you?
I don't either.
And that could have changed by
It's
now.
probably changed, yes.
I mean, it's been 9 years or 8 years
but
since
that's
we
a
bought
good
the ladder
point.
truck.
That's a base level to start at, finding out what is the down payment.
But
We need
But
to
you
spec
need
it
you need
first.
to
we
spec
need
it
to spec
first.
first.
You
So the way-
have to know what you're buying.
So the way-
so you
Yes and
can-
no, these are just general policies, so we could know, I mean, yes and no.
So just let me explain the way it works for anybody here that doesn't know, okay? So you give us the direction to go out and get specifications and prices of fire trucks. At that point, we put a committee together, we say, okay, what do we want in a fire engine, right? If we're building our own. If we get a demo, what do we want in a demo fire engine that is already being built or on the product line to go out and show people? We take those and we go to the different companies. Can you meet our spec, right? Yes. At that point, they say, okay, well, here's how much the truck is, and this is the down payment that you would have to pay. And then at the end, and this is how much you would have to pay on delivery, right? Or we would have to bond for it or whatever. So, but the specifications, when you build a fire truck, it's a lot different than anything else. You have to get the specs out first. You have to, you can't just go.
Do we have to have a vote on it, or can it be consensus that you just begin this process?
Let me answer your question first. we don't want to do all that work. And I don't want to mislead people either if I'm not given that direction. You know what I mean? If I go out and start saying, hey, we put all this work together, all this spec, and then I come to the board and the board says, no, we're not gonna buy a fire truck. Well, I just wasted time, I wasted everybody else's time.
Okay.
We never had an interest in buying a fire engine. Oh, okay, well, sorry I wasted all that time. Go ahead, Mike, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I'm just seeing if I'm the only one who remembers this, but I think back when Joel was still here, we asked for stuff to get put together for fire trucks because you were asking for it, and maybe last year already, before we had the paid on premise thing come up, we asked for start getting something together for it. So you do actually need, I mean, you know the truck that you're looking for, why hasn't there been some of this stuff already pre-planned, and now we have to get this, and maybe a month from now, we have to agree that these are the specs that we want to look for and.
I think some of it's due to the fact that how you order a fire truck and the length of time it takes to order a fire truck has changed over the last year or so. And so we're trying to, right now, it's out 2 to 3 years. As you wait, it could go out further. Price increases are going to happen on, they could happen monthly to yearly to whatever. So every step that we wait, and so that's what we're looking for, a formal right now, because we've always had to get formal okay to go ahead and purchase a truck. We couldn't just.
Are you saying that the last year that you all gave them that formal approval?
We asked for the chief to go out and start getting pricing on trucks, and then we halted it because we had to come up and we had to work on doing this paid on premise and figure out how to do that.
Right, I'm not disagreeing with you, but
So
my thing was.
I'm just saying that, so Joel's been gone, what, 4 years now, at least?
No, so
So.
we
in
did
this
ask.
time, we should know what we want in a truck already, right?
No, when you said go out.
Don't you want to replace that truck already? You want,
Right,
don't
but
you want
if
something
you remember,
similar to that?
if you remember, we kept putting it off, So, no, we never went and got specs and got prices.
But were you given direction by the board to get them?
Well, I mean, I called and we talked about, hey, for a fire truck, for a fire engine, we talked about the rescue engine, and we talked about the squad, and we were gonna buy an engine. And all that fell apart.
It all fell apart all the time.
It all fell apart
But
because
we-
it wasn't working what we were doing, and we were gonna go and buy a fire engine, not a rescue engine. And then we started asking around prices and to get a ballpark, like, what's a fire engine go for? 600,000,
So I
700,000?
then I want to make another question. How long will it take you to come up with what you want in your fire truck that you want? If you're gonna have a committee design this truck for you.
Well, I mean,
Because you're not gonna ask us to do it, because,
correct.
geez, you might get one with the crank down windows and the old hard rubber tires that you got in that 1933 model.
And no air
or
conditioning,
whatever.
we can't do that.
I'm just
But-
saying,
Once, getting prices on fire engines is more than just getting prices, it's getting the spec. But I can't go out and spec unless there's a vote, and it's, you know what? Okay, we vote to go ahead and go get specs of fire engines. Because I can say I want an engine, well, how much for a fire engine? $700,000? Okay, well,
Then it's what does it include, does it
So
include?
you're not even gonna build your own truck, you're gonna just see what's out there and use that truck, like you're gonna go down to the Holman's here and you're gonna pick up their,
the first thing we would do is we would get everybody together on this committee, okay? And then we'd say, okay, I would check before that, are there any demo trucks out there, right? Get some basic information to bring back to the committee. There's no demo trucks, or there is demo trucks out there, this is our option. Here's the layout, they gotta send us the layout of the truck to make sure the compartments work for us. We can't buy something that doesn't have the compartments that work for us and meets our needs. Then we can say, okay, well, there is no demo truck, and you know what, we need to spec one out. And then the committee starts specking one out. And then it goes out and they submit the specs, they submit their proposals, and
so
who can meet those
basically you wanna
specs.
just see if there's one out there already that will meet what you have versus this is what we need, and,
We did that with the ladder truck. Instead of building one, we made this one work because we saved money because it was already being built. And when it's being built and it's a demo model,
So when you're saying spec, you're not saying, well, this is what we really want, we just wanna call and see if, this, Buick Encore is the one, or is it the Chevy Traverse that would be the better vehicle?
When we
I'm
did
just
our-
using,
When we did our rescue truck
Like
out
that.
here,
Okay,
we
right.
looked at
Yes.
different beds, boxes for the back of that truck. and the committee had in their minds what they wanted to do. So we spec'd out what we wanted, came back to the board, it was too much, okay? So the board said, you've gotta go, back and bring it down into line. And so we had to respec it again, taking down some of the things that we wanted to have on it. And so, basically when you spec it out, you're gonna spec compartment sizes to make sure that it fits your equipment, the number of equipment, the size and the pieces of equipment that you're gonna be putting on it. You're gonna look at what you wanna do with it. You're gonna look at water capacity, hose capacity, pump capacity. Do you want a mid-mount pump? Do you want a top-mount pump, operator panel? There's lots of different things that you start to look at, and that's where you start to draw your spec, and once you get your spec, and the spec goes down to, length, width, height, engine size, transmissions, all kinds of things that you're looking for. It just isn't, you aren't buying a Buick Enclave or, a Chevy Impala, you're looking
So
at.
basically, but I'm just saying, I was using those as
Yeah,
an
right,
example,
right.
saying that this is what we really want, but when it comes down to it, the Traverse is gonna be cheaper than the Enclave.
There's-
There's certain things that we have to follow.
What you could live with with what you can't live with.
There's standards we have to follow as well, so there's certain standards that we have to do if we're gonna keep our insurance rating and things, we need to make sure that this truck has those functions or that ability to help us keep our insurance ratings as well, so
how
there's a
about-
lot of
How
things.
about
So
we
then we're
list it
gonna-
as an action item for
Sure.
October 4th, because it's not listed as an
Yep.
action item tonight.
Nope.
So for a future agenda item, that'll be on, the proposals should be in for the RFP and working on the budget. Is there any board discussion or other communications, Chief? Do you have anything?
No.
Okay. Are there any other agenda items that you all would like on the agenda for next time? We'll put the truck on to get the action item for the approval, to spec it out.
So the other agenda would be the audit review, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, good one.
Good one. Yeah, and then Amber will come in with a presentation on that and recommendations. Thank you. So it might be a long one next time. So much for my hour.
We have before, when the auditors come to the city, we've had a meeting before or after, because they don't like to come anyway. But we've done that before. Okay, so the city's meeting on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock. The fire district has met with the auditors, because of the same auditors.
Yeah, they're not
Like-
done with the city.
Huh?
They're not done with the city. So do you want me to see if they're gonna be?
I was just saying, if we have to pay them extra to come,
Okay, I'll check into it. I know they're not finished with the city. I don't think they'll be finished until October with the city. Now, whether it's by October 4th, I don't know. I mean, they just finished last week with ours. The turnaround time with the holiday weekend was just too tight.
I mean, we've done that 2-3 times, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think the timing just worked out like in the past, but
I think we've done it by phone before too.
Yeah, but I don't like to do it.
No, I get that.
Yeah, it's hard.
I'm
We've
just
done it both
saying,
ways.
if it works better for them, we could maybe do that.
Okay, I can check.
I mean, we might have to meet before the city, have them take care of us first. Or,
I can check. Okay.
With the new truck purchase, do we need to, I mean, it's inherent, many of us have been in on this conversation, but do we also need a review of why, like the current state of condition of our current trucks as to why we are looking at a new one? I think we know it's quite old, but I mean, should that be inherent
they're,
as part of the discussion?
they're past their service life.
Yeah, I mean, but I think it's important to state, so people who are listening know why we're talking
besides,
about
you're
it.
gonna have to convince me yet anyway.
Right, I mean, but that's the reason, I mean,
Yeah.
and, an engine should go into reserve status in 10 years, it should be taken out of service after 20 years, but we're talking 30 years. And we've had discussions before. But, I mean, that's why, and we need to replace one now because the other one's not far behind it. You don't wanna get in a predicament where all of a sudden, you know, we're replacing 2 versus 1 needs are, so.
And also remember, they are tested every, what, 2 years? Health test, or is that?
Every year.
Every year.
So they still have so much.
So our next meeting will be October 4th unless I'll talk to the city about audit, when they're gonna have their audit thing, if
Yeah, I
he
mean-
has any idea. Amber didn't seem to think any, well, she didn't say anything.
I mean, we can come, I'm not saying we can't, but I know before
Well,
they
it's
weren't
good to know.
thrilled.
It's
They
good to
weren't
know.
thrilled.
Okay,
Don't know what.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Thank you, Mike.
Second.
Thank you, Jolene. All those in favor?
I,
Hi.
Opposed? Anybody wanna stay here all night?
no.
I'll take